Have you ever felt an uncanny stillness within yourself, as if the world no longer commands your attention, yet whispers secrets only you can hear? That sensation, subtle and elusive, is not mere coincidence. It is the early stirrings of a deeper consciousness, the emergence of what ancient philosophers might have called the Sophia Stage, a threshold of wisdom where perception transcends ordinary understanding. Many wander through life, entangled in fleeting desires and shadows of thought, unaware that they have already glimpsed this sacred stage. But for those who have felt its pull, the signs are unmistakable, though they arrive quietly, almost like a shadow brushing against your shoulder, reminding you that something profound stirs beneath your everyday awareness. The first sign of this awakening is a sense of inner autonomy, a liberation from the compulsions of social expectation. You notice it when conformity begins to feel suffocating, when the unspoken rules that govern the masses no longer bind you. The world's judgment loses its sting, and a peculiar clarity emerges. You recognize that the human experience is a tapestry of illusions and archetypal patterns, and that your life need not be dictated by inherited scripts. This autonomy is not rebellion for the sake of defiance, but an intimate recognition of your soul's sovereignty. It is the quiet revolution that begins in the corridors of thought, reshaping how you engage with every choice, every relationship, every fleeting moment. A second sign manifests in your emotional landscape. While ordinary life often sweeps one from elation to despair like a storm-tossed vessel, the Sophia Stage individual experiences emotions with a depth that is both piercing and illuminating. You no longer suppress fear or grief, nor do you seek constant pleasure. Instead, you allow each feeling to unfold fully, recognizing that shadows are as vital as light. There is a disciplined courage in this awareness, a willingness to peer into the darker regions of the psyche, to confront the impulses and fears that society teaches us to deny. Paradoxically, this confrontation does not debilitate, it liberates, offering a profound resilience and an uncanny ability to navigate life's inevitable suffering with equanimity. The third sign is a perceptual acuity that borders on the uncanny. You begin to see patterns where others see chaos, to sense motives and undercurrents invisible to the uninitiated. This is not paranoia, though it may feel like it at first. It is an attunement to the hidden architectures of human behavior, a psychological sonar that maps both the inner and outer world with startling precision. Conversations reveal subtle truths, encounters expose latent dynamics, and you find yourself deciphering the silent language of gestures, glances, and pauses. Here, intuition merges with intellect, forming a lens that discerns reality not as it is presented, but as it truly unfolds beneath the surface. Amid this heightened awareness, a fourth sign quietly emerges: a detachment from the trivialities that once dominated your existence. Small quarrels, petty anxieties, and societal accolades lose their luster, revealing themselves as ephemeral distractions from the deeper currents of life. This detachment is not apathy, but selective engagement, a recognition that energy is finite and must be devoted to pursuits that resonate with one's authentic self. It is a subtle, often disorienting shift, for the world still clings to its superficial demands, yet you move with a rhythm that is unshaken by its clamor. The suspension between participation and observation becomes a space of immense power, a liminal realm where insight can germinate. Then comes a fifth sign, marked by an almost unsettling empathy. You begin to feel the pain, the joy, and the contradictions of others with remarkable intensity, not in a chaotic sense of absorption, but as a clear mirror reflecting the depths of human complexity. You recognize the masks people wear, the stories they cling to, and the shadows they deny, all without judgment. This empathy extends beyond personal interaction. It encompasses history, culture, and even the collective unconscious. The weight of this awareness can be burdensome, for one sees both the brilliance and the darkness embedded in human nature, yet it also fosters a profound capacity for compassion and ethical discernment. Suspense creeps in as the sixth sign manifests, a persistent encounter with paradox. Life begins to reveal its contradictions with startling regularity. The self, once thought stable, now appears as a constellation of conflicting impulses. The world, once assumed linear and predictable, unfolds in layers of mystery and ambiguity. Here, the Sophia Stage individual experiences tension without the need for premature resolution, learning to dwell in uncertainty while gleaning lessons from its intricate design. This paradoxical engagement is simultaneously disorienting and liberating, for it demands courage to live without absolute answers, to embrace the unknown as an essential companion in the journey toward wisdom. Finally, the seventh sign emerges in your creative and reflective life. There is a compulsion to explore, to articulate, to transmute inner experiences into forms that speak to both self and other. Art, philosophy, or simply contemplative thought becomes a vessel through which the inner world is expressed and examined. You feel the sacred interplay of creation and understanding, recognizing that the act of interpretation itself is a bridge between the conscious and unconscious realms. Here lies the essence of Sophia, a harmony of perception, insight, and expression, an acknowledgement that wisdom is not a static possession, but an evolving dialogue with the mysteries that shape existence. Have you noticed how silence can speak louder than any word? In the Sophia Stage, silence is no longer emptiness but a profound presence, a space where truth lingers, waiting to be heard. Ordinary minds fear silence, filling it with noise, distraction, or compulsive thought, yet those who have glimpsed Sophia embrace it as an inner sanctuary. It is here, in these quiet spaces, that you encounter the subtle workings of your own psyche, the hidden fears, the latent desires, the unspoken truths. And within this encounter arises a peculiar clarity, a recognition that life's most essential lessons are not delivered in triumph or disaster, but in the hushed corridors of reflection where the self meets itself without disguise. The second sign in this deeper stage is a heightened perception of authenticity, not merely in others, but in yourself. You begin to sense when you're acting under pretense, when your choices are motivated by fear, vanity, or conformity, and when they emerge from a place of genuine alignment with your inner truth. This awareness is unsettling because it strips away comforting illusions, revealing the raw, sometimes uncomfortable contours of your character. Yet there is liberation in this confrontation. By acknowledging your shadows, your contradictions, and your hidden motivations, you begin to integrate them, forging a more coherent and resilient self. The Sophia Stage does not promise comfort. It demands honesty, courage, and the willingness to navigate the murky depths of one's own psyche. Thirdly, time itself begins to change. Moments stretch and contract, as if measured not by clocks but by the rhythm of attention and insight. Past and future lose their tyrannical dominance over your consciousness, and you inhabit the present with an intensity that feels almost sacred. Memories are revisited not with nostalgia, but as lessons waiting to be understood. Plans for the future are conceived not with anxiety, but with a deliberate awareness of possibility and consequence. This temporal recalibration fosters a life lived with intention, where each choice resonates beyond immediate gratification, and each interaction carries the subtle weight of significance. In this altered perception of time, ordinary distractions fade, leaving room for the extraordinary intricacies of thought, reflection, and understanding. The fourth sign is a deepening relationship with the unseen forces that shape human experience. Whether one names them archetypes, energies, or subtle patterns, the Sophia Stage mind discerns the invisible currents influencing behavior, culture, and even historical events. This awareness is not mystical in the naive sense, but profoundly analytical and intuitive. You sense the hidden motives behind decisions, the symbolic weight of events, the psychological architecture underlying personal and collective behavior. It is here that suspense thickens, for the more one perceives, the more one realizes how little the ordinary world reveals. Reality is a palimpsest, and only those attuned to the subtle layers can decode its deeper script. Fifth, there emerges a paradoxical sense of humility coupled with empowerment. You recognize the vastness of what is unknown, the labyrinthine complexity of the human mind, and the fleeting nature of certainty. Yet this recognition does not diminish your capacity, it enhances it. With every shadow confronted, every illusion recognized, and every pattern discerned, a subtle power arises, not the domineering force of control, but the quiet authority of understanding. You navigate life not as a reactive participant, but as a conscious observer who can choose engagement with precision and intentionality. This duality, humility and empowerment, defines the Sophia Stage, revealing wisdom as an active, living process rather than a fixed possession. The sixth sign is an attraction to depth over breadth. Surface pleasures, trivial debates, and shallow interactions lose their appeal, replaced by an insatiable curiosity for what lies beneath. This curiosity is not merely intellectual, it is existential, reaching into the undercurrents of meaning, morality, and consciousness itself. You seek conversations that challenge assumptions, experiences that provoke insight, and knowledge that illuminates rather than distracts. The suspense here is palpable, for the path of depth is neither easy nor comfortable. It demands vulnerability, courage, and a willingness to face truths that are unsettling, even paradoxical. Yet in embracing this path, one discovers a richness of perception and a resonance with life that is profoundly transformative. Finally, the seventh sign is the emergence of intentional creation as a form of spiritual practice. Your actions, whether artistic, intellectual, or relational, are no longer random or purely reactive. They are deliberate expressions of insight and consciousness. Every thought, word, and gesture becomes an opportunity to embody understanding, to bridge the conscious and unconscious, to illuminate the hidden patterns that shape human experience. This creative intentionality is not driven by ego or desire for recognition, but by a deeper alignment with the rhythms of life and psyche. It is the culmination of the Sophia Stage, a life in which awareness, insight, and expression converge, where wisdom is lived, not merely contemplated. There comes a moment in the Sophia Stage when the self becomes simultaneously familiar and strange. You look inward and see landscapes of thought and emotion previously unexplored, a terrain both beautiful and treacherous. This intimate acquaintance with one's own psyche reveals that identity is not fixed, but a dynamic interplay of consciousness and shadow. You begin to recognize the masks you have worn, the narratives you have unconsciously subscribed to, and the archetypal forces that have guided your decisions. And yet, rather than despair, there is a quiet exhilaration. In understanding your own depths, you gain the capacity to engage with the world more fully, more deliberately, more consciously than ever before. The second sign is a growing resilience to external chaos. Life, in its unpredictable cruelty and brilliance, no longer dictates the rhythm of your inner world. Where others are buffeted by circumstance, opinion, and misfortune, you cultivate a center of gravity rooted in insight and awareness. This does not mean detachment from life nor indifference to suffering. On the contrary, it is a profound engagement with reality tempered by discernment. You perceive that pain and joy, order and chaos, creation and destruction are not enemies but teachers, each carrying the subtle lessons that guide the evolution of consciousness. Here, the Sophia Stage individual navigates life not reactively, but as a participant attuned to the undercurrents that govern human experience. Thirdly, a peculiar sense of moral clarity arises, though it is rarely rigid or dogmatic. Ethics are no longer borrowed from culture, religion, or convenience. They are discovered through intimate confrontation with the self and observation of the patterns of life. You discern when an action aligns with deeper wisdom and when it is merely a response to fear, desire, or compulsion. This clarity carries with it responsibility, a responsibility not only to act rightly, but to understand the consequences of inaction. And here lies suspense. The deeper one ventures into awareness, the more one sees the shadow that pervades all human endeavor, the moral ambiguity embedded in every decision, and the latent capacity for both creation and destruction that resides within every soul. The fourth sign is a fascination with the hidden dimensions of experience. Ordinary perception seems increasingly limited, as if you have begun to perceive the subtle architecture behind events, relationships, and patterns of thought. Symbols, coincidences, and recurring themes are no longer dismissed as trivial. They are decoded as messages, invitations to deeper understanding. Dreams, intuition, and even fleeting sensations gain significance, revealing themselves as portals into the unconscious. This attunement is at once illuminating and disquieting, for you begin to understand that the vast majority of human life unfolds without awareness of these dimensions, leaving most individuals blind to the psychological currents that shape their existence. The fifth sign manifests in the cultivation of patience and timing. The Sophia Stage mind recognizes that insight, action, and transformation cannot be forced. Just as a seed cannot sprout before its season, ideas, realizations, and resolutions require gestation within the consciousness. There is a deliberate slowing of perception, a willingness to dwell in uncertainty, and a readiness to respond only when circumstances align with deeper understanding. This temporal awareness fosters a profound strategic patience, an ability to act with precision and purpose in the face of complexity. Here again, suspense lingers, for the mind learns to wait, not idly, but with attentive receptivity to the subtle signals that guide existence. A sixth sign is a heightened sensitivity to the human condition in its entirety. You no longer perceive life as isolated events or personal concerns. Rather, you sense the interconnection of all things, the ripple effects of actions, and the archetypal patterns that echo across generations. Empathy becomes a tool for insight as much as compassion, revealing the motives, fears, and desires that drive behavior on both intimate and collective scales. Yet this empathy is tempered by discernment. The Sophia Stage individual does not lose themselves in the emotions of others, but allows them to illuminate understanding, guiding both action and reflection with clarity and precision. This delicate balance is the hallmark of deep wisdom, seeing fully without being consumed. Finally, the seventh sign is the integration of knowledge, intuition, and expression. Understanding is no longer a passive accumulation of facts. It becomes a living process, a dialogue between mind, heart, and shadow. You are compelled to express insights, to create frameworks for thought, to translate subtle awareness into action or articulation. This expression is not ego-driven. It emerges from a deep resonance with life itself, a desire to harmonize inner truth with outer reality. It is here that the Sophia Stage reaches its apogee, a consciousness that is awake, discerning, compassionate, and creative, capable of navigating complexity with a rare blend of courage, insight, and grace. Those who reach this stage carry an invisible weight and an extraordinary clarity, touching the world through their presence without needing recognition or applause.